What's something you know to be 100% true that everyone else dismisses as a conspiracy theory? The art world is largely built around money laundering and tax evasion. That actually makes a lot of sense. Would explain a lot of the really simplistic art pieces that sell for millions. K-pop was created by the South Korean government under suggestion from the IMF as an extra exportable industry to fix its balance of payments. It really happened that way. I'm more surprised people are surprised governments get involved in cultural exports. Japan had some 5-year Cool Japan thing going on. Thailand sending chefs to American to popularize Thai food. It's a way to win the game in Civ games even. Cultural victory. You want tourism and people buying your shit. So you do whatever works. The government is actually watching everything you do. Now that doesn't mean there is some dude sitting at a computer looking over your internet history. But the government does have tons of information about you on a server somewhere. The paradox is that a lot of people in the government don't know they have it. And the rest don't know what to even do with it. Wasn't that confirmed years ago? There was a lot of evidence leaked to journalists by Edward Snowden, a national security defense contractor. The evidence and response from our government was convincing enough for me. I'm not sure people deny that it happens. Really. But just take a number of positions on whether or not the government should be doing it. The opioid epidemic in USA is from insurance companies being too cheap to pay for a real treatment. Throwing an injured worker Percocet is much cheaper than surgery therapy at a research hospital. TBF, this isn't even a conspiracy anymore. Pretty sure it's widely acknowledged by a lot of people. Not everyone dismisses it. But the US government is still experimenting on its own citizens without their actual consent. But their implied consent. Fun fact. They legally can do this to anybody in the military. And did so to a group of Marines testing gas masks against mustard gas or some other chemical weapon under the guise of preparing for Iraqi chemical weapons. Now on the surface this doesn't seem so bad. It makes sense. However, the guys suffered varying degrees of damage. And the doctors who treated them were, according to a few whistleblowers, ordered to remain silent. Mostly due to the fact the doctors noticed that the injuries were not those of mustard gas, but a different chemical weapon. This happened in 2002 or 2003 I think, and a handful of the men died, with many more passing away a year or two later. I wish I currently had the source I got this from, but it's long since disappeared. Michael Jordan's first retirement was an unofficial suspension for betting on basketball. Don't forget the other part of the theory, that James Jordan was murdered due to his son's gambling debts. Not saying I necessarily believe it, but there's that part as well. Some agencies can turn on the microphone and relay the audio of most phones even when you turn them off, assuming you cannot remove the battery. Gizmodo.com. When Walmart employees go check in the back, they are actually just checking their social media for 5 minutes. Not Walmart. But I worked a similar retail job. Depends on the thing. If I tell you that we are out but you insist that I go check, I'll take a glance around and then stand around for a while. Because hey, I know we're out. If I were to say that we're probably out, and offer to go look for you, then I'll definitely move boxes and check. And you'll maybe get lucky. Comes down to when we get shipments, how often something's requested, and how friendly you are about it. The same is true of most people in retail positions. They did actually find Amelia Earhart. About 10 years after her disappearance, a skeleton was found in the general area of her last known location that was identified as female of the correct age and race, which was located near a compass taken from an airplane. They couldn't 100% identify her though, so it got brushed aside in favor of the mystery. There's also a big theory that she survived the crash but died in a Japanese internment camp, but that also gets brushed aside. Wendy is actually Ronald McDonald's bastard child that has sworn to take revenge by selling more burgers than him. Reddit on mobile is intentionally cheat to try and get us to download their dumb app. That Ditto is a failed version of cloning Mew. Stevie Wonder isn't blind. I did not see that coming. He did. That my girlfriend is real MA, she lives in Oklahoma, she's in college so she can't visit. We talk every day. No, I'm not lying. No, I'm not. Most conspiracy theories, especially the crazier ones, are meant to discredit the real ones. I've heard that the military encourages UFO conspiracies surrounding Area 51 because it's a testing site for experimental aircraft. And they'd prefer the rumors that spread around Area 51 to be complete lunacy about aliens rather than credible sightings of top secret experimental stealth bombers or whatever. But I've only really heard this as rumors. Never really seen any hard proof. The only reason why we are still in the Middle East is to harden our military so that if we go to war with another nation our troops have battle experience. I think this is what Russia is doing with Ukraine now too. I hope someone can help me find the article I'm talking about here. Back in 2012 I flew back to the US via LaGuardia. As we started our descent, my husband, then my boyfriend, told me to look out the window. Loud as all hell, all I could say was holy shit, there's a drone next to us. Woman in front of us whipped her head to the side and gasped in horror. As soon as she saw it, it went sideways and flew under and away. She got all in a panic and asked a flight attendant who assured us that we probably mistook something else for a drone. This thing was huge. 10-15 feet long. I've never seen one before and didn't know they were that big. Guys. The lady kept pestering the flight's attendant who had to then come back after speaking to pilot to refute what we saw. She kept saying that the military does not fly their drones this close to commercial flights. No one believed us. I'm from the good old USSR, so I just got mad paranoid and kept my mouth shut. My husband would tell this story often. Friends sent articles confirming the pilot's take on things. And then around the reality winner time whistleblower releases. 2018. I ran across an article where the DoD admitted to have been doing this for ages while denying it to the public. At one point I felt like I imagined the whole thing. I mean, it was so surreal to see this drone feet away from our plane. It really shook me when it happened. I had nightmares for a while. I've been combing Google trying to find the article to no avail. If anyone knows what I'm talking about, help a girl out. Edit. I think I found one of the articles. It was 2016, not 2018. I was pregnant in 2018, so I'm not sure my brain functioned for a while there. Time sort of folds into itself the first year you have a baby. Almost sure that's a scientific fact. Found one link. Tried getting the original .one, but they are still moving their website over to a new domain. The link doesn't mention flights near commercial planes, however they mention use of drones in us, which, to my prior knowledge as a layperson, was not something the DoD was admitting to. Link to Mashable article that has additional links. The billionaires are preparing for something big and it doesn't include us. That Disney owns an adult film industry, they just don't affiliate their names with it. I've told this to many people and look at me in horror like I just held their child. Edit. Seems like I should clarify. I don't have a sinus source on this. This came up in a finance class years ago. And looking at it from a business perspective is not something to be amazed of. However, others have pointed out other things they know as to how to prove this. The Earth is round, gravity is 100% real. We're running out of antibiotics. Bacteria are developing resistances faster than we can produce new ones. At the current rate, we'll run out within the next 50 years. We've already exhausted the first ones we developed, like early types of penicillin. It's not all bad, though. If we rotate what we have and invest in developing more, we can prolong the deadline indefinitely. Regardless, when your doctor tells you to take your antibiotics for the full prescribed duration and to dispose of them safely at a pharmacy, you should ducking listen. Source: biologist. The bachelor course on pathogenic bacteria covered this. Flood insurance rates are a cycle to churn properties for big banks. We're in the very beginning of the bank accumulating property phase now. It goes like this. 1. Flood insurance is cheap. Waterfront, flood zone, property values go up. 2. Current stage of the cycle, flood insurance rates start to creep up. They are currently going up 25% a year until they reach their true rate. Meaning, they'll keep getting risen until the banks get what they want. 3. Starting to see this. People sell their flood zone properties because they become unaffordable. That is, you have a rental property that's clearing $250 a month. Then your flood insurance goes up $100 a month. And it's going to up next year. And the year after that. People will start selling. This hurts property values. 4. This is where the banks clean up. Property prices drop so low that people can't afford to sell. So they have to short sell or sell for a loss. If they can sell at all. Otherwise the bank forecloses. The bottom falls out of the market and prices plummet because insurance rates are too high. 5. The banks accumulate thousands and thousands of these undervalued properties. 6. Now, the banks have to sell these things. If only there was a way to sell these properties. Oh yeah. Let's reduce flood insurance rates and give the market a boost. This is where the cycle repeats. A couple things to note, the big giant $1 million homes aren't really affected by this. The owners are usually wealthy enough to afford the flood insurance rates. Or own the house outright and don't need to carry insurance. The banks and the government are basically the same entity in this circumstance. A lot of houses in flood zones are huge neighborhoods that just happen to be low-lying. And can be miles away from waterfront. So, poor neighborhoods get hit the hardest by this. Social media, ESP, Snapchat and Instagram, exist in part to make us more comfortable with events in our lives being publicly known. Which in turn makes us okay with losing privacy from government surveillance. Justin Trudeau never wore blackface. That's a picture of him without the makeup. It's actually whiteface that he's been wearing all along. Phones do listen to your conversations. And they do recommend ads based on it. Know this because I tested it several times. With wildly different subjects with several friends by just repeating stuff like I need a car right now. Damn. I wish I could rent a cheap car nearby etc for about 5 minutes. That kind of thing. Reagan conspired with Iran to delay the release of the hostages, thereby allowing him to win the presidency from Carter. I know this because all of the contacts he established in this act of treason were later used to illegally sell anti-tank missiles to Iran in yet another act of treason. We'll go extinct before we can ever colonize other planets.